Hi guys, today we're going to look at guitars in general. So I decided, I've written a rock song and I've just spent a couple of hours on it. And so I'm going to talk you through how I've used guitars because some of you might not be guitarists and you need to play them slightly differently from the way you would play a piano, for example. Because the guitar in its nature, it's a strummed instrument, it's a string instrument, and very different from pressing a key. On a guitar, if you play a string, it will keep ringing, whereas if you let go of a piano, and a lot of you are using the MIDI keyboards to play stuff, as soon as you let go, it stops. So you need to be aware of how the guitar works, so you can make convincing guitar parts. So let's just start off with the basics. The guitar has 6 strings, so that's important to know because whilst on the piano you can play, if you've got enough fingers, you can play 10 note chords, for example. On the guitar, you can't do that. You can only play 1 note per string. So at most, you're going to have 6 notes in each chord that you play on the guitar. So when you're playing guitar, no more than 6 notes. But also, some of you might think, oh, I'll just play 3, and you might be playing your sort of triad idea, for example. Let me just bring this up on here. You might be playing that, for example. And whilst the guitar might play those 3 notes, it is more common to see a guitar playing 5 notes or 6 notes, so it might be something like that. And again, my rule for the like I had for the bass guitar lesson that I did, the bass needs space. So the lower notes I'm going to spread out. I've got C and a G there. Let me just turn the overall volume down. Can I do that? How do I do that? I'll just I'll see if I'll try and play it gentler. But yeah, here we go. So I've got a bit of space between the lowest note in the chord, the next note, and then as I get higher up, I can add more notes that are close together. I'm just playing a C minor chord there, C, E flat, and G. However, I don't need to play it like that. I can spread it out: C, G, C, E flat, and G, and that sounds more guitar-y to me, to my ears at least. So there's 2 types of guitar, an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar. So if you're doing a pop song, for example, you might have both in there. That's absolutely fine to have both. You probably do a lot more with the acoustic guitar, whereas if you're doing a rock song, it's going to be, you might have a couple of electric guitars. And so an acoustic guitar can sound like this. Whereas an electric guitar can have all that crunchy distortion on it. Okay, and then those guitars also have different roles. So you generally can split them into 2 camps: rhythm and lead. A rhythm guitarist is going to be predominantly playing chords and supporting the harmony by strumming away on chords, for example. They might also be picking. They might be doing a picking pattern. So if it's an acoustic guitar and they're the rhythm guitar, that's their part. They might be doing a picking pattern. But they also might be strumming. Playing like that. And then the other role is the lead guitar. And the lead guitarist's job is to do all the flashy stuff. So they'll be doing like the guitar solos, they might be playing riffs. And some guitarists, like if you think of bands like Coldplay, they only have 1 guitarist. And you'll see them if you look at the way their guitar parts are laid out, he'll be doing a mixture of chords and lead stuff throughout the song, and maybe overdubbing different parts. So overdubbing means recording a part and then recording another part on top of it. And so, for example, you want to think about what the role of each guitar is here. Now, I've written a rock song, kind of my attempt at a kind of typical rock song that you might get nowadays. So I've got a lead guitarist here, and they are playing. They start off playing a riff, and then they go on. They do play some chords at some points, but they also do a little solo at the end. The rhythm guitarist is predominantly playing what we call power chords, and we'll go into what those are in a minute. And then later on they play some fuller chords, so you can see some 6-note chords here, and this is the chorus section here. And these 2-note kind of chords here that you're seeing, if if we open those up, they're power chords, and we'll talk about those shortly. The bass is obviously a kind of guitar, and they often play, if it's a riff, for example, they're going to play the same riff generally. They might be, but it would be an octave lower. So let's have a look at this riff that I came up with. Now, if you were doing a rock song, you will have spent some time doing some research, and you would have found out that guitarists like a thing called the blues scale or the pentatonic scale. They're very similar. So I'm going to talk to you quickly about this. I've decided to use the key of C minor, and the blues scale or the pentatonic's a 5-note scale. The blues scale is the same scale but with an extra note, so it's a 6-note scale. I'm going to play C. I'm going to play. It's got a minor third in it, E flat, F, F sharp and G, and then B flat. Okay, now the key thing is this F sharp. Okay, this note is the tritone or the diminished fifth. If you're not sure what that is, you want to watch my little video on intervals, and that's a really cool note. Makes it sound quite bluesy, very typical of a guitar part to have that note in there. If it's a rock song, for example, it wouldn't work so well in a pop song. So I've decided to come up with a riff, and what I've done is this riff here. So that's a riff, a short repeated pattern that's then going to keep kind of repeating round and round and get nice and big. So I start off by playing this with the drum part, and the drum is just highlighting certain parts, and at the start of this is my intro, and then building in with a drum fill. Watch my lesson on drums if you want to see what a fill is. It's the little flourish at the end that builds us into the main riff where everyone comes in. So it sounds like this. This is the lead guitar playing the riff and the drum just highlighting some bits in there. Okay, so that's my riff, so that's the lead guitar that's going to predominantly be playing that, and it's an electric guitar. You can hear it's got some distortion on it, and then there is a rhythm guitar that comes in when everyone comes in with a riff, and what they are doing is power chords. Now a power chord is simply a note, the root note of a chord. So if it's a C, for example, which this is in the key of, it's and a fifth. Those two notes are very comfortable because of the nature of the way the guitar is tuned. It's very comfortable to play these. They are technically not major or minor. There's no third in there, so there's no E. It's just C and G. There's no third. There's no major chord, minor chord, power chord. Okay, so there's no third that decides whether it's major or minor. If I play those notes together, I get a power chord. I can also, as long as I'm just using the root note and the fifth, I can add more notes. So even if I have root, fifth, root, that is still a power chord. I can change that so I can play it on a different note. This is, say, if I went to an F chord, I'd play an F, and F, G, A, B, C, I'd play a C. Okay, so that would be a power chord. A G would have a G and a D. A B flat would have a B flat and an F. So as long as I stay a perfect fifth, that's an interval. Watch my video on intervals again if you're not sure what that is. I play those two notes together, I've got power chords. So listen to the rhythm guitar part on its own. Sorry, let me open it so you can see it. So I've kind of, it's supporting the riff, which is slightly different in terms of the tune, and it's playing only power chords. So this is a C and a G. When we go to an F, we've got an F and a C, and then up to F using this tritone interval, this blue note from the blues scale. I've built a power chord off of that, up to the G power chord there. Now when you strum a guitar, you don't always hit it with the same velocity. You might strum on a strong beat very hard, and on a quieter beat you might strum a little softer. If these were all the same velocity, I'll just turn them up so they are. It's very different from what I actually have where I change the velocity. So it's the first beat is strong and then the rest of them are a little quieter up until this beat, okay? And now it's... and that adds a little bit of groove. Okay, so you can control velocity here by with this line here, or you can switch to the V, which is just here, and I can change how loud or quiet those notes are. And that adds a sense of groove to it. So I've got my riff and I've got my power chords. Let's hear them together. Sounds pretty cool. And I've also got a bass guitar playing the same riff but an octave lower. Okay, so it's down here. Let's just hear the bass on its own. Okay, and all together it sounds really good because they're all supporting each other. Let's turn the soloing off, and I've got a nice little different drum beat now that the main drum beat's kicked in. And now I want to go into my verse section, and the most important thing in a verse of a rock song or a pop song is that the vocals take centre stage. Now I haven't written a vocal line yet, I haven't written a melody for the singers yet, so this is just the backing track, but I've cleared some space for it. I've still got the bass playing the riff. Alright, I wanted that to continue because we like riffs being repeated a lot. But I've gone to what we call a palm muted rhythm guitar. Palm muting is when you place your strumming hand right at the end of the string and hold it there gently so that you dampen the vibrations on the string, and it has a particular sound. It sounds like this. Typical in a rock song. You will hopefully have picked that out in your in your research stage. So I've just changed the drum beat. You want to change drum beat every time you do a different section, and so this is now the verse section. Now I've got a little fill at the end of the drum beat. I've got the bass playing the riff, so you can still tell it's part of the same song, but the lead guitar's dropped out, really. The lead guitar is going to take a minute just to stay out of the way, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to have these parts playing the whole way through. It wouldn't be normal to have just it playing at the intro and never again. It will come back, but to have some space, that's absolutely fine to have a section where one of the players sits out. And then I thought that was too short for a verse, so I then copied and pasted another verse, okay, all this stuff here, and put them there, and I've added an acoustic guitar doing a picking pattern. Picking on the guitar is when they pluck with the finger pick, so their strumming hand is not playing notes at the same time, they are playing a pattern. I've used a C minor chord and I think a B flat chord from my key, and they're adding a kind, let me hear it. Yeah, so I've taken the acoustic guitar and I've got actually, and I'm playing a pattern. I go up 3 notes and then down 1 note. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I change the chord. And so that acoustic guitar adds some variation to it, because this would be quite a long section, even though they'll be singing over the top, to just be repeating the same stuff. And right at the very end, going into I guess like a pre-chorus section, a section before the chorus, I've started strumming the acoustic guitar. So the acoustic guitar goes like this. Into a new section. So I've got 3 notes there being played. That's okay, it's just the guitar strumming those notes, and so you can see they're played at the same time. And I've got this rhythm, da 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 da, and that's leading into this moment here where we start our new section. So let's have a listen to that with everything. And so you can also hear in my drum beat, I've got a cymbal crash at the start of every kind of four bars, every 2 bars, sorry. Every 2 bars I've got a cymbal crash. It just helps to kind of strengthen the sections, and we know when the parts are repeating. So that's my verse section. The bass is playing the riff. I've got some muted power chords, and I've started to introduce in the second half an acoustic guitar. Going into pre-chorus section, pre-chorus, so the bit before the chorus, I've decided to start building everything up. And so now I've come off of the palm muted guitar, rhythm guitar, and I've gone to the normal rhythm guitar, and they're playing this. And this is also power chords. I've got go to an A flat chord. Okay, I'm going to an A flat. I've got an A flat, an E flat, and then another A flat, and that's okay. Even though it's a 3-note chord, it's still a power chord, and that pattern then continues. I play a B flat chord and then 2 bars of C minor, and that's when I also get the lead guitar and bass guitar to return the riff again, so we hear it better. The acoustic guitar is now strumming chords on it, to support this. And so I've attempted, if I zoom out, I've created my chords. I've got an A flat 9 chord, so I wanted to have some interesting chords in there. So I took a normal A flat chord, A flat, C, and E flat. So I've got A flat here. I've spread out the bass, and that's an E flat there, and then I've got another A flat. Here I've got the C, that's the 3rd. And then E flat, so I'm playing 1s, 3s and 5s if you watch my video on chords and how to construct them, but I've also added a 9. A 9 would be a B flat if you go up an octave, A flat to A flat, so the 9 would be a B flat note. So if I add a B flat, I get this nice chord here. If I play it on the piano for you, this is an A flat, this is an A flat 9. And through your research, you'll see songs often used, like for example in Wonderwall. It's used in loads of rock songs and pop songs. A 9 chord is very pleasant to our ears. And then I've got a sus chord, a B flat sus4. So I've got a B flat, and then I've suspended the 3rd. So instead of having the D, I've got the E flat, and then I bring the riff back. So I've got the guitar strumming 16th notes. Da 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 da. Okay, so 4 strums per beat. Down up, down up, down up, down up. That's how I'd be doing it if I was playing it on the actual guitar. I've also used the velocities. If I click on the V, you can see these velocities. Some are brighter than others, and they're the ones on the strong beat. So on my beat 17, on my down beat there, down up, and then I've got again on the second beat, 3rd beat and 4th beat. They're all the strong ones, and that helps to give us. Otherwise, it's too much and there's no sense of groove. So I'll return to that. So on my lead guitar, I've decided to do a full sounding chord. So it's like the guitarist just strum all the strings and it's holding this long note. And because it's the lead guitar, it's the loudest guitar, and they're just holding it down. So it sounds like this. I've got the acoustic still playing, but here we go. A flat, B flat, sus4 to B flat. Then the riff. So let's hear this section all together. Power chords in the rhythm guitar, no muting. I've got the lead guitar holding long chords, then bringing in the riff. The bass is playing. Oh, I didn't talk about the bass. The bass is playing, and you can watch my video on basses and how to write for them. They need a lot of space, so I'm sticking to using pretty much breaking up a power chord using fifths, pretty much. So it's. That's root and fifth on each chord, just in a kind of pattern that I've done. So let's hear this section. This is my pre-chorus. And I took the drums, and this is a cool thing to do. I made the drums what we call half time here. So where they were playing in this section, 2 and 3 and 4, and here I've got the drums playing 1 2 3 4 da, 2 3 4 on the snare on the thing. So I've spaced it out more, and it's a nice thing to do in one of your sections to have a half-time section. I've also involved, instead of using the hi-hats, I've used this note here, which is a ride. The ride cymbal adds a lovely change of texture that you can hear. Let me play the verse before that. Fell. Half time. And then I added a kind of building fill where I used the toms. 2 toms at the same time, so right hand's playing toms. Note I haven't got any hi-hats there because I've run out of hands. I've only got 2 hands. My kick drum here playing underneath, and then I had to drop one of these toms out here to add in a kind of snare fill there so that they could play at the same time. Remember, the rule of drumming is you can have 2 drums played by the hands, and you can have a kick drum. You can't have more than that. So the ride cymbal had to go then at this point to fit that in. Okay, I think that's everything about the pre-chorus. So now we're going into the chorus. Now I've decided to change key technically, and it's a typical thing that you would do in your piece to show that you understand keys, is that although my verse and my intro, the riff and my pre-chorus are all in sort of C minor, I'm going to go to E flat major. And the reason I've chosen an E flat major for the chorus is because it's the relative major of C minor. Every minor key has a relative major key. Every major key has the same relative minor key. So for example, all the white notes on the piano are the key of C major, and all the white notes on the piano are also the key of A minor, because C and A minor are they're relatives of each other. And it's good to change to have one section in the minor, or a few sections in the minor key or the major key, and then to swap to the opposite. So you go to the major if you're in minor, and minor if you're in major. So my chords here are E flat, B flat, I'm trying to remember now, G minor, and then A flat major. And so I've now got, I thought it's the chorus, it's the big section. So let's just ignore the lead guitar for now. So my rhythm guitar is playing, again, not muted, but it's now playing 16th notes. So it's 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4 4 2 3 4. And what I've done here, you might think this looks a bit weird, but if you imagine strumming down and up, you would get in a sort. You'll get a kind of if you're strumming on the guitar down and up. When you do the down strum, you'll get more low notes, and when you do the up strum, you get more high notes. But it's just a good way with MIDI, when you're using MIDI, this horrible sort of clunky blocks to kind of mimic a guitar. It's a nice way of kind of making it sound a bit more realistic. So I've got a mixture of low notes and high notes, but they're playing this chord progression. And you can hear there's some dynamic element to that now, because we've got beat 1 is pretty quiet, and beat 2 is much louder because I'm playing 6 notes. Beat 3 is quieter, and beat 4 is louder. And I've just decided to take those 4 chords and spread them out with the same pattern. The bass is playing roots and fifths again, I imagine. Little bit of a passing note there, and that's all fine. And then the acoustic guitar is also doing this. And that sounds quite realistic because I've got beat 1 down, 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 up, down, up. That's because of the adding in more high notes when I'm thinking about doing an up strum. It sounds a bit more realistic. So it's like strumming down, 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 up on the guitar. And then with the lead guitar, I decided to add a little lead part. Okay, so I've done. I've taken those chords. And done a kind of anthemic, maybe Coldplay-ish, maybe, I don't know, that sort of idea of playing high up. So we've got the rhythm guitar playing low power chords contrasted with the lead guitar playing high up. I've gone back to normal standard time for the drums, so they're no longer in half time. And I've also accented each chord change with a crash cymbal, so a ch sound. So here we go. And then and so that's my chorus section. So now I've got a riff, an intro, I've got a verse, and I've got a pre-chorus, and I've got a chorus. And I thought, we'll return to the riff now, just between the next verse, which this isn't finished, by the way. I would continue to. I'll tell you what my plans would be for it in a minute. But I thought we'll return to the riff. So if I mute this guitar here, we're going back to the riff. I thought with my lead guitar, now's the time to do a little mini solo, if you like. So I'll unmute it. Now, it's very hard to kind of do a convincing solo, but there are ways to make it sound better than you think. One of the cool things about having a guitar is you can slide on a string. So you can play a note and you can hold that string down and slide to a higher note. I do have a guitar here. I'll attempt it. So you get that you get that sound where it moves up. Very typical of a lead guitar to do that. And so I've attempted to do. If I play it here, what I've done is at the very end I've just done a beat with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very short, very quick notes into ascending the scale into the note that I'm aiming for, which sounds like this. So if I go from here. And you don't hear these notes on with enough time to register them, but it does sound like I'm sliding up into a solo. Now the other thing you're going to hear here is this. Now you can hear that those notes are not represented by what I'm playing here. You heard this. But you're seeing just one note, and that's because I've used the pitch wheel on my MIDI keyboard, and so I can't show you this because there's no camera on my keyboard on my setup here right now. But if you look to the left of your musical keyboard, your piano that you've got in front of you, you might see two wheels on the left hand side. And one of them is the pitch wheel, and if you hold a note down and you move that up, it changes the note, and what that can mimic on a guitar is what we call a bend, where you play a note and you raise the string, physically raise the string, which tightens it, which gives this sort of screaming kind of solo sound that you typically hear, and it's called a bend. And in your research you'll see lots of guitarists doing bends. Now for my score at the end of this piece I will have to change this. So that the pictures I use represent this, but that's not a problem. For now, we want it to sound good, and that's what matters. So what's happening here is the guitarist is sliding up to this C, and then bending it a whole tone, and then returning it down. Now there's a complication with doing this. You have to be able to do it in one take. So you can see that I haven't quantized these. They're slightly early. This one's slightly early. This one's slightly early. But if I quantize it, I lose the automation of me bending, which is frustrating. So if you have an idea for using some bends, you can but you feel you can't play it, ask me or Mr. Maguire. And see if you can and we can play it in for you. I then end my solo with what we call a cascade. Now a cascade is when you play, for example, up 3 notes, then down 1, then up another 3 notes. So you've moved higher than you were before, then back down 1, and then up another 3 notes. Da 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 da. And that's how I wanted to kind of do a very fast, like pentatonic run. Pentatonic using the 5-note scale. That we talked about earlier, to finish my solo. It sounds like this. Okay, it's all right. You know, it sounds, you can hear kind of the idea. Obviously, it doesn't sound as realistic as a real guitarist. Obviously, in a perfect world, we would all be able to play every instrument, but if it is, you can do it convincingly enough. So this is my guitar solo over the top of my riff. Play that again with the MIDI again. Remember, it doesn't show the bends. So going in from the end of the chorus. Cool. So for a couple of hours work, and that's all it's been, it's sounding pretty rocky, you know, and I can tweak more with this. I can add some more variation to the strumming, for example. I can think about velocities a lot more carefully. But once you're aware of how to do this, you will be able to make, whether you're doing a pop song or a rock song, some interesting guitar parts. The key things to think about are chords that are no more than 6 notes. Think about strumming patterns, down, up, down, up, down, up. The guitar can also have picking patterns, definitely want some of those in there. And riffs are really useful, and also thinking carefully about velocities and how hard those notes are being hit and how they're supported by the other instruments. If I was to finish this song, I'm about halfway through, I would then, we've returned to the thingy, so now we need to do the verse 2. So I would copy and paste this, and then I'd tweak some things here, because we don't want everything to be the same. So I won't do it here now, but I'll do another section on variations, and I might use this song. But I would possibly change a couple of change the drum beat maybe, and the chords wouldn't change, but I might do something different with the guitars. They'd be playing the same chords, but maybe in a picking pattern rather than a strumming pattern, or something along those lines. I'd then have pre-chorus again with variation, chorus again with variation, maybe a longer solo, and then chorus all the way home to finish the song. But I've done the majority of my ideas are all down here. I now need to copy and paste them and then vary them and change them to get the best marks. I'm going to finish by playing the song out so you can hear the whole thing in its entirety, and then yeah, have a go at trying to come up with some interesting guitar parts and researching how things are played. All right, good luck with it. Here's the song.